Welcome back to my channel. My name is Michelle. I make mainly vlogs about lifestyle. Normally I'm probably cooking, cleaning, or just showing you my day-to-day life or week to week. Or I sometimes create visual diaries. Just sharing my experience, not only as a nomad, but as a person. And today's video is just going to be me talking about what my reality is, or the reality that people don't really discuss when they talk about full-time travel. So you're thinking about full-time travel. It seems glamorous, right? Endless adventures, new cultures, and freedom. But there are a few things that I don't see people really talking about or going in depth into, and I really want this page to be a place where people do feel comfortable to ask the questions or to talk about the things that are not really discussed. Sometimes it's easy to assume that people are living this beautiful, calm life. So, firstly, I want to talk about loneliness. Loneliness can be a really big challenge when you are a full time traveler, especially when you are doing budget travel. And so when I'm saying budget travel, again, bringing it back to living check to check. So since we have started our full-time travel journey, my partner, she's been working, right? She works full-time, fully remote, and they're able to work from anywhere. So that is what she does. I had a little bit of money, have unemployment, which I'm about to run out of. Back to the loneliness aspect of traveling. Whether you are solo traveling, traveling with your partner, it can still lead you to feel lonely. And I say that because, first of all, as much as you love your partner or your person that you are with, as people, we all need time alone. So you need time to process your life as it is, process your thoughts, emotions, and anything else that you have going on. And when you are working as a unit to make sure that you are secure, it's hard to focus on building other relationships. So, like, it's not impossible, but when you are budget traveling, it's not easy to say, okay, I'm gonna do XYZ things that most people do to socialize and make friends. So, like, a lot of the times when you see people that are traveling and they may be a digital nomad, those people having their like set budget and everything, depending on how much you are paid, there are some people that they do and are able to splurge more often. So when you are able to do more social things that cost, such as always eating out, always being out, like drinking, I feel like it's definitely easier to find friends to a certain degree. At the end of the day, you'll find nice people in passing, especially in other countries, but they're not necessarily like, like they're working or they're living check to check because it's easier than where they are from at that time, and it allows them to meet those goals of saving. When it comes to the loneliness aspect, a lot of people end up being lonely because if we're two people that's working and your page has every day you're at a new restaurant, new coffee shop, things like that, and you're getting all these things, or like you're going to paid events that are happening in whichever town you are in, then it will definitely probably be easier for you to meet people. When you stay places, like we've stayed a lot of places where there are beaches, the beaches are free. So people are already going with friends that they already are maybe traveling with, or even if they're alone. At that point, they may have found another friend locally that they feel more comfortable to do things with versus doing them by themselves. But yeah, I feel like it's very easy to get lonely. I do also think that it sometimes is hard when you spend such a significant amount of time away from your friends and family if you have a close relationship with them. Me personally, I'm not particularly close with my family. The amount of time that I haven't seen them while traveling, I didn't really see them when we lived 5, 10, 15 minutes away. I do miss them. Certainly do miss some of my friends because I went to college many states away from where I grew up. And so the friends that I did make, they all are still in that state or they have moved across the country. So I still haven't necessarily seen them, but I do get to connect with them sometimes, whether it's sending audio messages, sending videos, if they comment on my stories or my posts, just sharing, experience because some of them have traveled to more places than me, so sometimes they'll like give feedback or give insight into their experience. In general, as a person, I have to really learn to enjoy that time that you have with yourself and know that it's okay to spend time alone. But as human beings, it's always nice to connect with other people. In a way, I feel like you can rightfully still, be lonely. Okay, so my next point is the budgeting. Budgeting is so crucial to travel, whether you are traveling for 4 days, 5 days, but I think especially when it comes to saying, okay, a lot of countries in Latin America, as an American citizen, you get either 90 days, you can get less than that, you can get, in some countries, 180 days. And so a lot of the times you'll feel like, okay, I want the max days because I can make it work and I can save. But in reality, there is a lot more things that you have to like think about, even if you're saying you want to stay in one country for the max amount of time. You have to think about the high season. You have to think about no matter where you are, like your accommodations and your food, the general things you need, like hygiene products. You can't really like use the water. So obviously if you are already budgeting in, okay, I have to have drinking water, you have to double that drinking water per person because you need more of it to brush your teeth or to wash your face or even to clean your food before you are cooking it. So that budgeting is something that people don't really talk about, and I feel like people brush over it because they're not necessarily worried to a certain extent. Like they have more flexibility again based on income, but I'm saying in reality it can still add up even if a person feels like they have extra or even if you pre-saved and you're set with the set budget, things do come up. You have to be able to manage those finances as you go. You have to think about unexpected costs and even like just basic challenges. So, say for example, when we first got to this island in Brazil that we are staying at, my girlfriend had already booked the accommodation, but the accommodation was not. It was a catfish, but sorry y'all that it's a moth in here. But if you see it, just know that's okay. It's just a moth. A lot of times you end up on Airbnb because sometimes I feel like especially since like being a digital nomad has become a thing, it's not so easy to just walk around neighborhoods and say, okay, I want to rent from a local or locally. Now, granted, when you go on Airbnb, it is still the local people you are renting from, but Airbnb has to get a percentage of that profit. Jumping back to my point of like, sometimes it just doesn't work out on Airbnb. And to be honest, if you are staying somewhere and then you first come and then it's cheap, like where we are now, it was not the cheapest, but it's like after everything we went through in Costa Rica with the constant inflation and the housing was like somewhat unlivable. Like it was the same situation here of like, okay, this person charged to me, I feel like more than they should have, but sometimes when you are booking accommodations, it's more so about where you are and it's not about really your comfort. And also, again, going back to challenges that can come up with just saying, okay, I have X amount of money and then I might have to use majority. So, like, when we got to accommodation, there was black mold everywhere. Like, it was like what we had seen on the listing probably was like that place 5+ years ago, and it was not livable or workable. And it's one of those things where we had to contact them in the first 24 hours and we had to book something else. And you won't always get that immediate refund to be able to book somewhere else. So that in itself creates an extra cost because, okay, now you're going into your savings and taking out that money. And then now that the refund is coming, it's like, okay, well, I know the refund is coming, but I'll have to think about that deficit that I just put myself into with my savings. And yeah, it's like sometimes it's kind of hard because if you book one place thinking that you're going from this place and you can walk to where you need to, and keep yourself within a certain budget. If you have to move based on your budget because now it's the last minute, stuff is gone, you're not able to really book it, it's not even going to come up for you. It's like things like that. Or sometimes, like in Colombia, we had a lot of issues with like power outages, so it would be like buy all this food and then I can't cook it or it's gonna spoil you. And most part they're gonna be like, it is what it is. Like they will literally just say it is what it is. So thinking about things that might happen, even for example, last weekend we did our first excursion, and y'all want to know I bust and lucky for me it was no serious injury to where I needed to go to a doctor's office or the emergency room because I don't have money for that. So it's like, okay, I don't have money for it, but if it was something important, then what am I doing? Because again, everyone's financial situations are different, and I feel like people don't want to seem irresponsible by saying that they are living check to check, but a lot of people are doing that. So don't feel like crazy if you say you need to budget a certain amount before you begin, or you need to have X amount of like income to supplement you taking a break from work or things like that. It can be stressful, but it is something that you really have to think about and that I feel like enough people really won't discuss. All right, so my next point is logistics and planning. So by logistics and planning, I mean not only your accommodations, but also what tourist attractions you will see, or if there's like a famous cafe. Transportation, visas, how are you booking the flights? The visa process can be overwhelming because that information can be constantly changing. Tell you all something. Before I began this, I've only flown twice. The first time being to Vegas and back from New Jersey, which is where I went to school. And then the second time being when I left my hometown and went down to Florida. So for me, it was like I could never fathom like about like booking a flight one way, booking it back, figuring out where I'm gonna stay beforehand so that I can be approved to even enter the country. The fact that I am not employed, and sometimes you do need to have a certain amount of money before you are visiting places. Logistics and planning can definitely be overwhelming, and obviously it gets more overwhelming the more you wait. So if you know that you got 90 days in Panama and you're only allowed 90 days, right? You have to think about, what is my budget? Is it high season or low season in this country? Because I will tell you, for Latin America, when it's their high season, it be the same cost as living in America if you were to rent month to month. And it can definitely cut into your budget as far as like, okay, where can I book a flight to? Will I be able to do? Some people do border runs if they're in a country and you get 2 visits. For example, before we went to Costa Rica, we were thinking, okay, if we're able to find an affordable place to stay, then we would definitely do a border run and just come back and get X amount more days. Sometimes you will get to a place and it's just so funny. I don't know if I have a clip of my girlfriend talking about it, but one thing about her is she's going to at least try to get those maximum amount of days. But I will say she's gonna make sure that she's both comfortable, and you know what I'm saying, she has to work. So I'm looking for work. So I feel like for her and us right now is more important. And also to think about longevity. When I do have employment while I am doing this, I need to be able to be in a place that's comfortable, that's quiet, that possible to have remote work or anything like that. But I think depending on the country you are in, that the lifestyle is different. The way that things are handled is different, and you have to think about that as far as planning. Sometimes you could call a driver to come at this time. They're going to come 15, 20 minutes late. They could come 5, 10 minutes early. Same thing with like when you have to move your Airbnbs. Most of the time, you have to check out of an Airbnb by 11 a.m., 12 p.m., right? And then you have to go to the next one. A lot of these people put 3 p.m., 2 p.m. So you have these 2, 3 hour windows where everything that's valuable to you, all your work equipment, personal equipment, and stuff is just there. And depending on where you are, there's not going to be anywhere where you could just do like for them to hold your luggage. About the planning, thinking about when you are trying to get those days in a country, a lot of people use different websites that allow them to have and ticket so that they can actually figure it out and buy a ticket for where they may go next, because sometimes your mind changes based on your experience and we are new travelers. All right, so my next point is cultural adjustment. It can be very difficult adapting to different cultures, customs, the language, and again, like just the things that we find is like so present in America, that's not going to be the case a lot of times in other countries, depending on where you are. So, again, my experience so far in Latin America is that things are going to get done eventually in that day, but it may not always start like America. Say, for example, I need to get my birth certificate. I know I have to be at this building first thing when they open, 7 a.m., 8 a.m., and I may be there for an hour, if that. Sometimes if it's like express. The last time I went to actually get my birth certificate, it took me probably 30 minutes. Versus here, if you're trying to go to the bank, even if you are going out to eat, sometimes it's going to be that bit of a wait. And, you know, it does allow you to be more patient and more open to being more patient, because I feel like it's easy for us, especially in the age of social media and instant gratification through technology. Everybody gets a little bit overwhelmed, but I will tell y'all, they don't care about that, and they will take their time. And also, it is hard to certain things, like just little things. It's not anything that's actually wrong with it, so I'm not trying to come off as like, some people, they like things very particular, and I think you really have to take a step back and understand that learning the culture and understanding even like the dialect. So even though stuff may be generalized, when you learn about it, there are things that are specific. Being open to learning the history of other places when you visit, like why they talk the way they do, why they make certain dishes or how they make certain dishes, and even just trying the food that is traditional or a traditional drink, things like that. It's always nice just to understand too how America is influenced in different ways, with the things that are more loved there. Like, why do we love certain cuisines in America? Just thinking about it and not trying to demonize another culture, or not trying to like compare to a certain degree, and also understanding that for them, the things that like you may see as a big deal, they can't think about that because they're thinking about the day to day. So just understand that, get to a place and want to change the culture, and it's like not your culture to change. So if you are living in someone's room or in their house or staying at a historical hotel, for example, just find out for you what can you learn about the culture in that moment. Does it help you to relate to another human being? That's more important than always finding fault in someone else's culture. All right, so the next point that I want to get to is health and safety. And by that, I just mean you are traveling full time and you are obviously going to be standing out if you're staying in a small town and every few days you have all these bags and equipment or whatever else that you are moving with. And whether you're solo traveling or traveling with a group or your partner, thinking about health and safety overall, not even in the sense of like going to a new place, but also where are you coming from when you travel? Are there any health issues or things that are happening in the world that you could possibly bring into a country? For example, how when COVID started, people really didn't feel like traveling could be a thing, to the point where people had to stay quarantined in different countries because they didn't want to put their communities at risk. So I feel like thinking about health and safety in the sense of being aware of your surroundings, make sure that you are somewhere safe and alert no matter where you are. Even if I was back in America, of just like paying attention and making sure that, health wise, I'm doing good, and that I'm good because I don't want anyone else to be affected by my choices around my health. But yeah, just being alert, being aware, even when you are enjoying yourself, so that continue on, you feel good, you feel safe, and do happen again no matter where you are. Definitely when you are a tourist, I feel like you should more so be on your P's and Q's, because you're going to stand out. People always know, whether you think they do or not. People know. So just being aware won't share if they get robbed or if something happened per se because they don't want a place to seem unsafe. And truthfully, where it's really safe in the world, I don't know. Other countries are more safe than America, like overall, but when you start getting into different groups existing or different things being put in place, then you know, just being aware, I feel like is an important reminder to get. So this last one, again, it's not much I could say because work is looking for work and doing like little things around the house for us. So like going to the grocery store because again, she's working full time remote, but it's not like, oh, I'm going to answer a couple of emails, then I have to write for 3 hours. No, she is a patient care rep, so she has to constantly be on the phone with people, chatting with people, emailing them, updating notes, doing a lot of different things. So for me, you know, I do my best to at least make sure that little things are done. So, like, for example, cooking, that could take a lot of time. Sometimes I feel like people end up eating out so much because they're tired from working. People don't think about how much more difficult it can be to have work-life balance when you're constantly moving from place to place, because if you only have 2 days off and you're spending one of those days really moving on to your next place you're going to stay or flying to another place or even taking a bus ride, whichever means of transportation that you are having to do and figuring that out, it can take all day. So it's like, how do you keep the balance? How do you make sure that you are making time for yourself amongst trying to, work, but also like, for a lot of people, work is first, but also making sure like, hey, I am in a different place. And so although my work is the same, how can I enjoy it? So like when she is well rested and everything is good and in place, we may go for a walk. We've been lucky enough to end up in a lot of places where we can be on the beach for most of the time that we've been traveling. So again, it's free, but just getting outside, getting fresh air, making sure that whatever I'm cooking is, healthy and she has energy throughout the day or whatever else is needed. I feel like that's very important to, yes, work hard, but also enjoy yourself, even if it's not in the way that you might necessarily want or you see other people doing it. You have to enjoy yourself with where you are at, finding that balance and making sure that you make time for your well-being and your mental health on top of the constant changes, because it's exhausting. It's already exhausting to work and have to deal with people all day and then have to be figuring life out. So you still want to find time like for some type of peace for yourself. Despite these challenges, full-time travel can be rewarding. Definitely pushes you out of your comfort zone. It broadens your perspective. It creates memories that will last a lifetime. I feel like life is definitely about creating memories, but I'm really, really, really working on understanding that do is enjoy the present, even if you don't know what's to come. The fact that you are doing something that you once thought you would never do, I feel like why not enjoy it? I think that these things that I talked about definitely highlight other side of full-time travel and the reality of just being someone who is trying to figure it out, who want to be able to be open and talk about it, because we cannot use experiences to escape our life. Experiences are to enjoy your life. So I would just want to be clear on that. Anything can be as great as you make it. So I just wanted to remind you all of that. I will see you in my next video and